Aloha, I am June Jones of the Houston Roughnecks, and this is the XFL Show.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
Welcome, football fans. This is For the Love of Football, and this is the XFL Show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
This week, Bo knows progress, and we don't have a problem, we swear. But oh my God, we wish we could be betting on some football right now. This is episode 171. You gotta Bo-lieve in sports wagering being legalized all over North America, Bryant. And of course, this XFL, CFL thing being a good thing for everybody.
I thought this was going to be episode 171, We're Degenerates, but I guess not. Because I wish I was betting on some football as well. Small bets. Small
five.
Bets.
That's why it's not a degenerate title, because they're small bets. I mean, I've been going crazy this week. I don't know what got into me, but all the small bets, maybe it's because NHL and NBA playoffs in the air, and I've been getting even into some soccer, maybe because we were talking about the European League of Football, of American football last week. I don't know, but this week, man, sports wagering, having it available to you is such a good thing. And if you're in a state that doesn't, or in a country that doesn't, it's a huge bummer. But it looks like that's going to change in a lot of places, including Canada. And that's what we're going to talk about a little later on with the CFL. Still waiting and hoping that they have a season this year. 724-565-4XFL is the XFL Fan Line, the number for you to call and text. Got some texts there this week, some calls. If you want your voicemail on the air, just let us know, and then we'll play it. Not going to play anything that we don't have permission to, Bryant, but we always love when people
But they do
call.
help with topics. Yeah, they help with us putting a show together.
Last week did for sure. At XFL Show on social media, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're hanging out. We don't have a TikTok yet, but the more and more I watch my wife watch TikTok, maybe that's something. I don't have the energy. It seems like those people have lots of energy, but maybe. It's a lot of time. It's very fun, though, and they're creative. At XFL Show, mostly on Twitter, where we have a lot of fun. Of course, the YouTube channel. And this week, we are brought to you by our gracious sponsors and helpful production staff at Pretty Easy Podcasts. You can go to prettyeasypodcast.com to get your own podcast started today. And it's the best way to start a podcast because, well, their slogan is it tells the whole story, Brian.
They make podcasting pretty easy.
So
You gotta be kidding me.
with Dinkin and Duncan, the vitriol between CFL and XFL fans I was seeing on social media, on Twitter this week, Brian, and also even our own YouTube comment section from last week's episode. I don't know if you caught this, but people going back and forth saying the CFL needs the XFL, the XFL needs the CFL, the XFL doesn't even exist. Man, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, people getting really angry at each other. And I just want to say, everybody love everybody. We all need each other. We're all football fans, right?
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Right?
It'd be a lot better if you did that with the trumpet thing that you do, but you could hold off.
It sounds sadder with the trumpet, though. Actually, I feel like, yeah, let's all get along. Like I said, we're on this long road to who knows when, and the only friends that we have are our fellow football-loving friends of the CFL or the XFL. Get used to it, because. You know, you might get mad at your brother every once in a while when you were kids, not talk to each other in the back seat. But if you didn't get over it, wherever you were going was going to be a hell of a boring time. So enjoy it, figure it out. It's not the end of the world either way. So
yeah, either way, you're stuck with each other. We're on the road to nowhere, and we're here together.
We're just going the road somewhere. Put it there.
Well, somewhere. So we're on the road to.
And you know what? In fairness, though, it's not just fans; it's reporters that I've seen from the CFL side. Not contradicting. Excuse me. In conflict with each other, saying what's right, what's not right.
Then you got CFL fans going at each other over the whole issue, and then you throw an XFL fan in there, someone who's passionate about the XFL, who may be saying maybe a little disrespectful to the CFL. It is a league with a long history. But either way, come 2023-ish, I think everybody's going to just be talking about how wild this new alignment is, format, whatever we're going to get. That's what people would be talking about instead of going at each other. But don't want to see that. Just want to say everybody love everybody, especially on our own YouTube comment section. I feel like I'm kind of I'm scolding people. You're the father. You're the one that should be. You should be giving them the.
I only have one
here.
I don't really. If I had two, maybe I'd have a better. Yeah. So whatever one says, one does. So there's really no. You don't want to share that toy?
I'm gonna give it to you right now.
You want it?
Pretty much.
All right.
So I'm giving this to you, even though I don't want to. Here, I'm very mad that I'm giving this to you right now.
You're gonna get it, but I'm not happy that you're getting it. That you want this, but you won't stop crying. All right. We got to speed through this episode, though. Full disclosure, I'm flying for the first time since
St. Louis.
Since we went to the St. Louis Battlehawks.
I can't believe you and I went to St. Louis, and then a global pandemic started. It just seems too coincidental.
Do you
personally.
think my butterfly effect is if I would have just not eaten that Spam sandwich?
No, Spam sandwich was good. If you didn't lick the concrete, I don't know why you did that. That was just a weird thing with our friends.
I licked concrete?
Yeah, I thought you did, didn't you? I don't remember what you
did.
No,
I would even pre-pandemic, I wouldn't have licked concrete.
You wouldn't go down for a 3 count as a referee at Bourbon Street? Touch that floor?
I would do that. That's something, but that's like 10 years ago.
You're a married man now, so
whole nother event.
Uncalled for.
All right, so let's get to it. Let's talk about this week's cover 2.
I don't want to talk anymore.
I mean, I do want to talk. I want to talk about the Calgary Stampeders quarterback, Bo-Levi Mitchell, one of the faces of the CFL as far as I'm concerned, Brian. I mean, this guy is one of their top
one player that
players.
I know. Yeah,
he's one of the one players you know. And he was on the Bob McCown podcast this past week and had some interesting comments about the XFL CFL alignment talks. And I pulled this quote, especially as my favorite, because it shows that Bo knows what's up. Bo-Levi Mitchell said, "I don't want the history of the Canadian game to go away. Neither do I. I would never want that to happen. I don't want the Canadian game to change. But if we want the Canadian game to grow, I think the merger would be an absolutely phenomenal thing." I love that his view on alignment is in alignment with my views on alignment, Bryant. Bo-Levi Mitchell is in the league, is a CFL player, and recognizes that changes might need to be made in order for a merger or alignment to happen. But obviously needing to pay respect to the Canadian game itself and hoping it sticks around in some form or fashion. Cool comments, really honest comments, I think, by the Stampeders QB there. Definitely check out that podcast, the Bob McCown podcast he was on. But even he he put over The Rock and Danny Garcia and how big they are and how awesome the XFL with the new ownership could be for the CFL in terms of exposure and all the players. If you're a player in the CFL, do you think there are many players in the CFL who see these rumors and are like, oh, I hope that doesn't happen? Maybe Canadian-born players, I would think.
I would hear if you were to ask me that question last week, I'd have been like, maybe Bo-Levi Mitchell doesn't want that to happen. That's the player I think wouldn't want to happen because he's been there forever and he's like, a staple with Canadian football. At least down here, it's the one player we all know. I don't know if players. I don't want to say they don't care. That's not the word I want to use. They are indifferent. Because at the end of the day, they want somewhere where they can play football and get paid and make money for their families. That's what they want.
And the most money possible.
Exactly. And so if the CFL merging with the XFL is that route, I think a lot of them would go for that. I don't think anyone would be like, I'm not playing anymore. This isn't CFL football. Like, I think that's a small percentage of players that would be like, I'm not playing because we're not playing Canadian rules.
Oh, I think that percentage is zero. I think everybody's still going to play, but like people who might pout or say something off color about it, that maybe is a handful of people.
Like, how many players walked away from the NFL and like, oh, I can't hit the head anymore? I'm not playing. This is ridiculous. Like, no one does that because rule changes.
You think AFL players were like, oh, we're merging with the NFL? Screw this. I'm going to go back to my day job as a mechanic.
Yeah.
Which
exactly
full time,
no,
which they still worked back then as mechanics in the off season because everyone had off season jobs. But Levi Mitchell in this interview is great too. I like that he said the same thing Dave Naylor told us about Canadian fans too, Bryant. CFL fans, they're older. They tend to skew older. He said something like he doesn't see people in their 20s with Stampeders bumper stickers around town. Those cars belong
to LA Wildcats.
45 or 50 at 45. The young bucks, we wear the XFL gear. Older cats are rocking the CFL stuff. But no, he said even the fans of the Stampeders, he usually says they're about 40s or 50s. So, and that's the quarterback for the team. The CFL has obviously a need for what the XFL will bring, and the XFL is bringing something that's not even really football in terms of the value to the CFL. The XFL is bringing all kinds of different stuff, though, that's huge for the money of the league. Revenue sharing format. Yes, a huge marketing machine known as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and a slew of other assets the XFL has, while the CFL has the tradition, the players, and damn good football. So that's where we're at now, and you have players commenting more and more on this. We'll see how many more comment on it as candidly as Levi Mitchell. But Bo knows. I'm glad to see a prominent player like that is behind this. We already know June Jones, former XFL coach for the Roughnecks, is all for it and says he's in if it happens. So let's all hope this has the positive backing of the players and coaches as well, because you don't want anyone speaking up against this unless they're like, right now it's only a handful of fans, I would say. Well, not a handful, but a lot of traditionalists in Canada and some people in the media up there. Down here, I don't know why would an XFL fan not want the CFL to be a part of it?
In reality, teams, I think the XFL fans wouldn't want that if we were playing CFL rules.
And I
think there is a legit problem there, and it's kind of eat and crow a little bit here, right? Because we're telling the CFL fans to figure it out and deal with it, but in reality, the fans that are going to leave the CFL, we talk about players not wanting to play in the CFL because of the rules changes or whatnot. That's nothing compared to the amount of fans, because there will be fans who stop watching because they're not playing CFL rules for whatever the reason may be. Fine. But I think you have to outweigh that with the fact that how many fans are you growing? How many fans are you gaining by merging with the XFL versus how many you're losing by abandoning quote unquote CFL football?
So we will keep an eye out for more players and coaches up in Canada and around the football world commenting on the alignment talks. But let's move on to part 2 of this week's cover 2, Bryant, because we have to give a quick update. Have you given any more thought to Elf?
That is great. Oh, that is great. Elf. They don't even know that they did that. That's the thing.
You don't think they know?
I don't think they realize they did that.
Good, crisp football.
How do you not have some Elf drops right now? This is ridiculous.
European League .football is the website, and that is the new football league in Europe, American football in Europe, that we talked about last week, featuring some of the old teams from the Euro League. That was the NFL's minor league, basically, with the Frankfurt Galaxy and the Barcelona Dragons. And yeah, the website's still up, Brian, and the network that they have for their televising, streaming games is still there. A bit pricey, but what have you thought? Should we go in on this? And we be watching these games together
I'm like
online?
60% there on getting it. I guess that's pretty low, but I still want to see what the whole thing. I think it starts 2 weeks from now, 1 week.
And I think the June 19th, 1 month away.
Okay. So we have a little bit of time. Maybe we'll relaunch the Patreon to get that, to be able to get the season. Who knows?
How about, we maybe relaunch the Patreon and just have the Euro tier. And if you subscribe, we'll use that money to pay for our European League of Football subscription. And then also we'll do live commentary during the games.
There you go. Right. That's awesome.
There you go.
I don't know.
We're not doing that.
Me, I like that. No, we're not. But if you cared, just maybe call or text the XFL Fan Line if you're interested. Either way, if you
want it, then we'll do it. But I don't know. I don't know if the demand's there.
We're talking about alt football here, right? We have the ELF. Then we have Spring League. How much am I paying attention to all this? I'll be honest, I'm not paying attention to the Spring League too much. I have watched a couple games clips.
Games on tonight, and they were blowouts. We got, as we speak, a 31-0 rout by the linemen over the undefeated Alphas now in the third quarter. This is
Alphas are down.
Team.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is like the 2-0 defenders coming into the Wildcats and getting crushed.
Yeah, again, this league's not about the teams, though. It's about the players, and if you're not keeping up on the Spring League, I'll tell you the things that are coming out of it so far, the main storylines. Number one, Jerry Glanville's unstoppable. He absolutely should be a head coach in whatever the XFL does. I'm all for it. Hal Mummy's looking okay too, but last week Glanville beat him, and Glanville's winning and looking good doing it. And then number two, Bryant, there is a bit of a quarterback controversy on the Jousters, and guess who's involved in that?
Friend of the show, Luis Perez.
Yes. Luis Perez, Drew Anderson, couple games into this season, or 3 games into the season now, I guess.
2.
And
are they playing right now?
We're in week 3. I don't think they've played yet this week. And but 2 games in, and they're both kind of splitting a lot of the time. Luis Perez not outright beating this Drew Anderson for this spot. But I think he's getting the game tape out there, which is what matters for him. And he has
in
now
shape.
a name.
That's important.
Yeah. And he has a name out there. So, like, even if can you see Luis Perez quarterbacking in a future XFL, even if he's not like an outright starter in the Spring League? Does that mean anything?
I mean, you got to value what you're getting. There's 2 different types of Luis Perez, right? There's a Luis Perez that's played in spring football, competitive football, and there's this Luis Perez that's playing in the Spring League, which is kind of like a glorified scrimmage. Is he playing with the best possible players out there? Does he have the best O-line? Does he have the best coaches? I know he has Kevin Gilbride, but there's a lot more to it, right? So are you comparing apples to oranges there a little bit?
I think this league's about great catch we just saw too. We're seeing some spectacular plays.
But that great catch, was that great catch because of a bad throw? Like that's you have to. Was it? I don't know.
Yes, this was a good throw just now, but also Luis Perez being in this league doesn't. I think it only helps him, even if he has a couple bad outings or mediocre
unless
outings.
He's throwing it into the ground 5 yards away from him. Like this is every throw. Like he's throwing it 10 yards ahead over a receiver's head.
And that goes for any player for that matter. The Spring League is about just accumulating game tape, having your stuff out there, and being ready for when the XFL and potentially the CFL come calling. But enjoy it just because it's football, but it's not football you can gamble on. At least not on like the traditional apps that most of us are using, which is a bummer, which is why I said at the top of the show, Bryant, I wish we were betting on some football because as fun as I'm having betting on Liverpool FC and the Pittsburgh Penguins, I would love to be betting on just football because it's the most thrilling, the most exciting. It's the most unpredictable. I would say some of the best odds. But
I hope we can bet on Elf because then I can tell people like I put $20 on Barcelona today.
Yeah, and not have to be the soccer team, which nobody likes. It's a true football fan. No, but I don't know if we're going to be able to bet on Elf. I might, at least not on your FanDuels.
You bet on Australian football in my app. I don't know if you can in yours.
I was researching, actually betting on some rugby and Australian rules football yesterday. I was texting with Vince saying, I might bet on rugby this weekend. And he said, I'm partial to Australian rules football. I said, ooh, that's a good idea too. And again, these are small bets, and this is just to make the games interesting and learn. I'm learning. That's why.
I'm learning.
Betting on football will be
there is a way to make money if you're betting. I promise you that. I still haven't figured it out, but there is a way, I promise. There's
got to be. Otherwise, why is everyone doing it? I mean, I know why, because it's super fun, and that's why it's being legalized everywhere. But does gambling on sports being legalized, does it mean that things for the XFL next time around will be completely different? Things for the CFL will be completely different from how they have been in terms of revenue, in terms of the survivability? Let's get into it. It's this week's Hot Read. So, Bryant, the CFL needs to change their business model. We've established that on this show. We've talked to people in Canada and in the United States who follow the CFL, who follow the XFL. The XFL's model, top-down, full ownership of everything, all teams sharing all the pie. CFL, a lot different, a lot more traditional. Franchises, but also not traditional in that the most valuable franchises there are small market, community-owned teams. Revenue streams are a must. You need multiple revenue streams. You need that passive income, which is what I hear a lot on TikTok. Hey, I'm going to tell you how to make this passive income. You don't need any money to start. Follow me for more. That's what everybody says on there. Passive income.
Did you follow them?
Or just, no, and then I say, okay, I'm going to the other room to place a bet, honey. See you later.
Passive income if you win.
Multiple revenue streams is where it's at. The CFL wants to get into a revenue share type scheme where everybody's sharing more, where they're getting more money influxed into the league that could be distributed amongst all the teams. The XFL, one league, one team, one company. It was all easy peasy that way, which is would make life easier for the CFL, which is probably a big reason why the CFL's even considering a relationship with the XFL. And word is, up in Canada, single game betting being legalized up there soon, maybe by the end of the year, is going to help the CFL a lot with a new revenue stream, a new way to make money, which might afford them the ability to change how their league is structured in terms of making money for each team. Then you also look just across North America in places like Florida this past week, Bryant. The ball really moved towards sports betting being legalized in some form or fashion soon. And I mean, that's a big state. That's a lot of money going in and out of pockets, and that it could be made by teams playing in the States or in Canada. I mean, anywhere. So the biggest hurdles here now for the CFL to start with an alignment for them would be figuring out, okay, we have a new way to make money, but we need more than that. Or do we? How do we share revenue? How do we move on from our current model of all these small market teams are making all their own money on gates and people coming to their stadium and the support they get in their towns, and how do we change it and take that dive to a totally new way of thinking? And then you have the XFL, which is basically looks like it's going to go with the same sort of business model and maybe even a better chance at a solid TV deal. Who knows with the Rock's cachet? It's an interesting thing to consider, how they're in two different spots. And then you also throw in gambling is virtually going to be legalized everywhere, I think, in the coming years soon. And not just the United States, it looks like Canada too. So do you think, first off, the progression of the legalization of sports wagering across North America is enough to guarantee that because of that alone, whatever the CFL and XFL do, it will survive because they can strategically set up a season where they get a lot of eyeballs, a lot of money being thrown at their games, and there you go. You have a solid revenue stream, and you have exactly what you need. The ratings, the money, the eyeballs, the butts in the seats because of sports betting.
Well, I mean, you talk about passive income. You know, they're not getting any income directly from sports bets, right? So they're not going to be taking any of that into account, right? So if you put $20 on the Stampeders to win the game and they lose, they're not getting part of that 20. So
they get it from making deals with FanDuel, DraftKings, or MGM or whomever as the official sports betting partner of the league, and then you have money coming in that way, and then obviously with all the action on your games, more people watching your games.
Right. So that's where the money comes in. Now, will betting on football lead to more people watching your games, or is it going to lead what you do, which is I'm going to bet on this Barcelona game so I can watch it on my phone and refresh the score every few seconds? Like, how does it do that? I watch it for
no, I personally watch all 90 minutes.
Okay, a lot of people watch, bet on things that they don't watch, right? They bet on things that are just kind of there. So
that's true,
right? So I'm not 100% sold on this is the savior of the league. Will it help? You're damn straight it will. It's going to put a lot of money into their pockets that they didn't have before. It's going to bring in revenue that they didn't have before. The NFL, almost basically encourages betting without saying so much, and they were jealous of the XFL, right? Because the XFL had the point spreads, had the over-unders on the screen. They'd give live updates of odds. It was great. I mean, it was, in fairness, you and I never bet on XFL football.
Well,
the reasons will remain anonymous or remain whatever a secret, but at the same time,
we were not gonna
hashtag we want our jobs back.
The reputation of the show. Yes,
yeah,
upstanding citizens.
Exactly. I did bet on AAF football though.
We are not degenerates.
But I will say that people watch football because they are losing money on football, whether that be by spending money on jerseys, by spending money on betting. That's what the NFL banks on. Can the CFL start getting a piece of that? Sure. Is it going to be enough to save them? I don't know. Because you talk about how they're going to share this revenue. Where is it going to come from? Is TSN all of a sudden going to give them 4 times what their contract is? I don't know. Because no one knows exactly what this is going to do. Is it going to make a major impact right away? Probably, but enough to where the more fixed revenue streams are actually bringing in money? I don't know. I don't think TSN's going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to pay now, 10 times what we're paying you now because football's legal to bet on in Canada.
But we have The Rock, is what Randy Ambrosi says. We have The Rock now, and maybe 8 or 9 teams in the States. A lot more games, a lot more action. I think sports betting is going to change TV deals even more than they already. I mean, right now it's insane. And then you talk about, more and more live sports is where it's at for these TV deals that are these new streaming networks and the major networks, at least in the States, and then up in Canada you have your TSNs, your CBCs, right? They're going to want the live event. If you're giving them live events that many people are going to be betting on at times of years where maybe it'll be the only game in town, at least for a little bit, that'll be very strategic and smart thing to do, and I think very beneficial. And then you also add on, you have the machine that is The Rock, who knows what kind of hype can be generated behind the league with all that. That's like the bells and the whistles. So I think sports betting, though, is the core thing helping everything out. That'll be major fuel to the fire, or to the engine that will be the XFL, CFL aligned.
Before we get into the other part of this hot read, where do you think football betting, for the NFL specifically, where do you think football betting lands in the terms of what brings the most eyeballs to their product?
Oh, nowadays? Do you count fantasy?
That's what I was going to say. Do you count fantasy because you're betting $20 at the beginning of the year, whatever it is?
Or daily. I mean, daily fantasy's crazy. So
I guess gambling is number one over fanatics, you think?
Absolutely, especially these days. Absolutely. I mean, everything has turned into what the NBA, to me, is what the NBA always was. The NBA was always a league where you rooted for players, not for teams, usually, most people. And now the NFL was always a regional or just a loyalist type sport where you're loyal to a team, but nowadays you're loyal to your players, to your daily fantasy team, your season.
I'm loyal to the LA Rams as long as they win by 7.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where everything's going, and especially with more and more sports betting being legalized all across this country and now up in Canada, that's what's going to drive it all. So maybe you're still going to have your Rough Riders, ride or dies, of course, up in Saskatchewan, but you're going to have a lot more people up in the area watching CFL, maybe the younger people, because they get to bet daily fantasy. So that's the thing to consider. And the other part here, just to close out the hot read, Dave Naylor, Farhan Lalji from TSN basically said that the CFL has spent a lot of time looking at how to change their business model, their revenue sharing, and how the framework will pan out, and that's a work in progress that will not even be happening until next year at the earliest, which again just aligns with why alignment is being discussed, because the CFL sees the writing on the wall, sees the opportunity, sees where they're at now, and with the XFL coming back, rising from the ashes, next year a major change to the CFL's business model should be in the works, although right now we have we as fans, we have no idea what they're doing, and I'm sure right now they're having a tough time exactly figuring out what it is, and that's why the XFL was brought into the fold, most likely, because something had to be done with the CFL, as we've heard many times now over the last 2 months.
So how much do you think of these conversations are within the CFL themselves? We talk about the CFL and XFL having these conversations, trying to figure things out. But what about the CFL having conversations with themselves of how they're going to make this work? Because you have 9 owners, and technically you have 9 owners. You have 3 communities, I get that. But you have 9 owners of teams who don't really have any revenue sharing whatsoever. The only revenue they really share is a TV contract that kind of helps them pay for the salary cap. So with all that, they have to figure out within themselves, how do they want this to work? Because the XFL is one entity. It's one big corporation that owns the league. Do the CFL sell the ownership to Redbird Capital? Do you buy out some owners who don't want any piece of it? Do you kind of split the ownership of the entire league by percentages and maybe like a stock? I don't know. But the CFL has to have conversations without the XFL on what their plan is and how they want to move forward. I would think they've had these conversations already and kind of know what they want to do. But,
and then you have CFL loyalists who don't want any kind of new affiliation and want just the 9 teams and as is, but maybe with a change in business model, saying, well, look at sports betting. Look at all the new revenue that could be out there. We could survive. We can make it without The Rock and his fancy eyebrow and marketing machine. We could do this without the XFL. So the sports betting could work against the alignment at the end of it. It might end up enticing the CFL to go it alone.
But could it help it? It's going to make it bigger. It's going to make it even bigger than what we thought it was going to be.
If you look at logic tells you, okay, more money being thrown around on all these sports, TV contracts, fans. I mean, combining forces with more resources and also expanding into way bigger markets. I mean, way bigger. It's better for everybody if the goal is actually to make money and grow the game, as they say.
And what Dave Naylor has told us is their revenue sharing isn't going to work right now because you have the smaller teams, Saskatchewan and whatnot, paying for the bigger teams if that was to happen, right? Because Toronto's not making money, Montreal's not making money, BC's not making money, Regina's making money, right? The teams in Edmonton are making money, but are those little itty bitty teams are going to pay MLSC, right?
Yeah, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment.
Oh, MLSE, excuse me, MLSE. Thank you. Are they going to pay them money? Are they going to actually be like, oh, here, you multi-billion-dollar company, here's a couple $1,000 to help with our revenue because you didn't make any money? Like, again, I'm happy I don't have to figure out these things out and make these decisions. But I do know that if the CFL says, "Ooh, we can make $1 more by when betting gets legalized, but we can make 10 more if we merge with the XFL and betting gets legalized," I'm still going to look at that.
The almighty dollar will dictate most of these decisions, I think, and I think the money leans towards merge, and also not just the money. The growth of the game says merge. The players now, you see players like Bo-Levi Mitchell saying, "Yeah, merge, and let's get this done." Why have all these TSLs and ELFs? Well, maybe we got to keep ELF and AAF and XFL, CFL, all these different acronyms, when you could bring it all together and really have an awesome experience for fans, an awesome place for players to make money and play, and, as they say, grow the game collectively without all these different pockets, all these little leagues, all these minor leagues, just kind of trying to fight this impossible fight themselves. Everybody love everybody.
Well, I think it's still a sensitive subject for everyone. You want everyone to love everyone, but at the same time, you get the passion. And I think that's part of why this is going to be so awesome, is because you have people that are so passionate about what's happening that they want to see this through till the end, and maybe, just maybe, still give it a chance, even if they aren't happy with the outcome. I know I will. I know Alan will, and that's why we are here every single Friday, right here on your favorite podcast app. Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you give us that 5-star review and tell your friends about us, please, because we're that good of people, I think. If you got a question, comment, or topic you want us to talk about or cover, well, then text or call the XFL Fan Line 724-565-4XFL. Standard text messaging rates and international rates do apply. Also, follow us on all social media platforms at XFL Show, Twitter, or Alan's favorite, Facebook. Or if you want to come and say hi, hello, subscribe and watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/This Is The XFL Show, the official YouTube page of This Is The XFL Show. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Pretty Easy Podcast. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com and get started today, because they make podcasting pretty easy.
Looking more at this European League of Football, and they really have their stuff together. I mean, with how they've packaged their season and how you can basically pay-per-view a game or pay for a season and pay per team and get highlights in different languages. This
is new bodyguard for Jadrian Clark.
What?
That was one of the things. What was one of the things on here? It says new bodyguard for Jadrian Clark, I think is what it is. And I think they brought in a lineman or something. Hamburg offensive lineman.
You gotta look. We're suckers for Hamburg offensive linemen.
We are.
Wait, I hope they change the names of positions in this league too. Instead of offensive lineman, it's bodyguard left inside, bodyguard center.
Bodyguard.
That'd be cool.
Body tackle. I don't know.
No. Well, I don't know. This is intriguing. This is cool. We'll give you an update on whether or not we got a couple weeks to make our decision, and let us know if you want some extra content regarding.
You know what, Alan? Hold on. Now that I think about all this,
TSL.
What time are these games going to be on? Because if they're on at like 3 a.m., Pacific or something, I don't know if it's going to be worth buying that subscription.
For honestly. They'll probably be like, well, actually, I'm going to be in LA when all these games are going on in July. So it's going to be like 3-4 a.m. probably for a lot. No, yeah, 5, maybe 5.
I remember the good times during was it the 2002 World Cup? You and I were staying up till 3 a.m. watching U.S. beat Mexico.
U.S. almost beat Germany. Had him.
Had him on the ropes.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll give you the update on that. And, of course, we'll be following anything said or heard in regards to the XFL, CFL alignment talks, which are ongoing. And everyone up in Canada, get your vaxes, so you can get some CFL football. That's what we all want in August. Not just in Western Canada either. Talking to you, Ontario.
I think the Montreal Canadiens are having fans for their first playoff game in a couple weeks or a couple days. I think if it goes to Game 6 or something like that. Opening up the Bell Center. Or Center
There you
Bell.
go.
Center with an R-E.
Yeah, up there, isn't it the NLH, right? Isn't that how they...
What?
Or isn't it in French? It's like, National Ligue de Hockey.
Oh, I think so, yeah. So what is this?
The
Canadian Football League de Canada?
Can you bet on spelling bees on FanDuel?
Ooh, I don't know.
I'm going to have to look into that. We are not degenerates, but we are out of time. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And watching on the YouTube channel. Everybody love everybody. Stop bickering in the YouTube comments and think about how awesome the future of football is with all this alignment talk and the potential with all these players out there. And even the game expanding worldwide to Mexico and Europe. That's a great thing. And it makes me happy. And next week, we'll be back. I'll be right back here, Brian. I'll be back on my quick trip flying down south and back in time to be right here in the chair with you talking XFL next week. So
we might have a in-person show for the first time here in a couple weeks. That might be something we have to figure out.
For the first time since St. Louis.
I know.
Yep, that'll be happening in a month.
Alrighty. Let's go. Don't age well. Let's get some news. Positive vibes. Come on, people. Be friends out there. Be nice to it. Instead of debating negatively, say something nice about the other league. That's your goal this week. If you're an XFL fan, say something nice about the CFL. If you're a CFL fan, say something nice about the XFL. I dare you.
At XFL show, we might mandate that on social media and the YouTube section comments. Say something nice about the other league. Damn it! Be back here next week. You want it? We'll give it.
I just love how the CFL looks when they don't play football.
Is that a good thing you just said?
It's like a backhanded comment, I guess.
Yeah, don't get catty either. I know some of you out there.
I bet you the Rams look great playing in the dome at American Center.
Oh, come on. One last cheap shot at you, St. Louis. Sorry. We'll end it on that, I guess. For Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL show. Remember, they're listening.